The food in his hand suddenly felt heavier than iron. A half-finished meal on a chip plate, steam still rising faintly into the evening air. He turned slowly, expecting the usual beggars who haunted the edges of the old transport station. But what he saw forced a breath from his chest. 4 children stood in the half-light, barefoot on the cracked pavement. Their clothes were little more than rags, streaked with dust, torn at the seams. Hunger was written across their faces in ways no word could ever match. Sunken cheeks, trembling hands, lips pressed tight as if holding back the shame of asking. But it wasn't the hunger that froze him. It was their eyes. Each pair shone with the same impossible blue, so vivid it seemed to light the shadows around them. Not the soft blue of human irises, not the pale blue of sickness. This was alive, electric, pulsing faintly as though something inside them wasn't just looking at him. It was measuring him. The smallest child, a girl who could not have been more than 7, held the courage the others didn't. She lifted her chin, her voice barely steady. "Please," she whispered. "Just the scraps. We'll share." He stared at them longer than he should have, and in that moment, the world around him seemed to thin. The rusting station walls, the distant hum of machinery, the neon sign flickering in and out above, none of it mattered. Only those 4 pairs of eyes. Only the strange weight pressing against his chest, the silent knowledge that this was not an ordinary request. He lowered his plate, unsure if his hands were shaking from fear or pity. "Where are your parents?" he asked carefully. The children didn't answer. They only looked at each other, as if the question was dangerous, as if speaking aloud might summon something lurking just out of sight. One boy stepped forward, older than the rest, his eyes glowing brightest of all. His voice was flat, almost rehearsed. "We can't go back. Not to them. Not anymore." A chill crawled up his spine. He wasn't sure if the boy meant parents, or something else entirely. He set the plate down between them, the food still warm against the chill of the evening air. None of the children moved at first. Their strange eyes flickered, as if waiting for permission, or perhaps testing him. Finally, the smallest girl crouched, her fingers trembling as she touched the bread crust like it was treasure. She broke it carefully into pieces, passing them one by one to her brothers. Not a word was spoken. Not a crumb was wasted. He watched in silence, a knot tightening in his chest. These weren't the greedy, desperate motions of children starving in the alleys. Their movements were precise, controlled, almost ritual, as if they had been taught to eat like this, to never draw attention, to make every bite last longer than hunger could. The boy who had spoken earlier looked up at him while chewing slowly. His voice carried a weight no child should have known. "You shouldn't help us." The word struck sharper than any plea. "Why not?" he asked quietly. The boy didn't blink. "Because they'll come. They always do." A dozen questions rose in his throat, but he forced them down. The tremor in the boy's voice wasn't fear. It was certainty. He glanced toward the darkened edge of the station, where shadows lengthened beneath the dead neon light. Nothing stirred there, but suddenly the emptiness felt watched. His instincts, the ones that had carried him through war zones, smuggling runs, and forgotten ruins, whispered that the boy wasn't lying. Still, something inside him refused to turn away. Maybe it was the way the little girl's hands shook as she tried to swallow too fast, or the protective way the older two shifted closer around the youngest. Maybe it was simply the humanity that hunger stripped bare. He crouched to their level, ignoring the ache in his knees. "Listen," he said, steady but gentle. "Whoever is after you, whoever you're running from, I'm not going to let them take you tonight. Not while I'm here." For the first time, their expressions changed. Not relief, not trust, something far heavier, because in their glowing eyes, he saw it. They believed him, and belief could be more dangerous than hunger. The food was gone in minutes, but the silence that followed clung heavier than the night. He kept scanning the empty street, trying to convince himself the unease was only in his head. But the children's stillness told him otherwise. Their bodies might have been small and tired, yet their eyes tracked the darkness like seasoned scouts. A metallic clang echoed from somewhere in the station shell. The youngest girl flinched, clutching the older boy's sleeve. He didn't comfort her. Instead, he shifted her behind him and fixed his glowing gaze on the far end of the alley. "They found us," he whispered. The man's breath caught. He wanted to ask who they were, but instinct told him the answer would arrive faster than words. From the edge of the shadows, figures emerged, tall, deliberate, moving with the discipline of hunters. Their faces were hidden beneath hoods, but the faint glimmer of devices strapped across their arms told him these weren't ordinary pursuers. The air itself seemed to sharpen around them, vibrating with a hum of unfamiliar tech. The children pressed closer together. He could feel the weight of their fear, not wild panic, but the quiet dread of prey that had been cornered too many times before. He stepped forward before thinking, placing himself between the hunters and the children. His voice came out lower than he expected. "They are with me." The nearest figure tilted its head, studying him as though he were an inconvenience, not a threat. The voice that answered was metallic, distorted. "Not yours to keep. Step aside." He didn't move. His heart thundered against his ribs, but his legs rooted firm. He wasn't armed, not properly. Just an old knife on his belt, the kind meant for utility, not battle. Still, when he rested his hand on the handle, something inside him steadied. The hunters spread out, 3 on one side, 2 on the other, forming a slow arc. Their movements were rehearsed, patient, confident. They had done this before. The boy with the brightest eyes tugged at his sleeve. "You don't understand. If they take us, none of us come back." The man swallowed hard, the truth already carved into boy's voice. He might not know what these children were, or why their eyes glowed like living stars, but he knew one thing. He was not going to let them vanish into the dark. The night seemed to tighten around them, as though even the air understood the trespass. The hunters closed in without drawing weapons. Not yet. Their confidence said they didn't need to. The man shifted his stance, keeping one shoulder angled between the children and the advancing figures. The tallest hunter stopped a few paces away. His hood cast his face in shadow, but a faint blue pulse flickered where his temple met a strip of metal along his jaw. A voice modulator deepened his tone. "You've made an error. They are not refugees. They are classified assets." The word hit the children like a blow. The smallest girl recoiled, pressing herself into the older boy's side. The man felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Assets. Not kids. Not names. Not lives. You're not taking them," he said. One of the hunters stepped forward, scanning something on his wrist. A faint red light swept over the children like a net his eyes couldn't see. The boy's breathing grew sharp, not from fear, but from memory. The man didn't think. He moved. The hunter's gaze snapped up, surprised at the speed, not because the man was fast, but because no one ever interfered. The knife was in his hand now, held low, the way soldiers carried blades when they meant to use them. The lead hunter's voice remained calm. "You don't understand what they are." The man stared at him. "They are children." Something shifted in the silence that followed, something brittle, almost human, like a crack in a mask. The modulated voice lowered. "Look at their eyes. Really look." He didn't need to. He'd seen the glow, the rhythm in it, like something breathing behind bone. But none of it mattered. "You're going to leave," he said, "or things won't go the way you expect." The hunter didn't laugh. He didn't argue. Instead, he tapped 2 fingers against his wristband. A response signal? A mark? The man couldn't tell. Then one of the younger children, silent until now, suddenly clutched his head, eyes blazing brighter. A soundless tremor rippled through the air, like heat without warmth. The hunters froze, not in fear, in recognition. The lead one took a step back, visor dimming. His voice dropped to something almost reverent. "It's starting." And for the first time since they arrived, the hunters hesitated, not because of the man with the knife, but because of the children he was trying to protect. The air felt wrong, too still, too charged. The boy who clutched his head swayed, his breathing shallow, the glow in his eyes no longer steady but pulsing in quick, painful bursts, as though something inside him was trying to break through. The hunters didn't advance. They watched, waiting, not for permission, but for activation. The man stepped closer to the boy and dropped to one knee, his knife still in hand but lowered. "Hey, look at me," he said, voice steady even as his pulse hammered. "You're all right. Breathe." The child's fingers twisted into the fabric of the man's sleeve, as if anchoring himself against something none of them could see. His pupils dilated, the blue around them stretching like light through cracking glass. A soft hum began in the air, too low to be sound and too real to ignore. The smallest girl spoke, voice shaking. "It's happening again." The lead hunter raised one gloved hand, cautious, not threatening. "If you don't let us take them, you won't be able to contain what's coming. They were created for control, not freedom." The man looked up sharply. "Created?" No answer, only silence thick with implication. Another tremor rippled through the ground, though nothing moved. The boy's eyes snapped shut, and the hum in the air sharpened like a blade drawn across a stone. The man stood and positioned himself in front of all four children now, knife in hand, shoulders squared. If they are dangerous, you wouldn't need restraints. You'd already be sedating them. One of the hunters shifted, as though the truth of that stung. The lead figure replied at last, "We don't restrain what we don't want to break." Before the man could respond, the older girl, the one who hadn't spoken once, stepped out from behind him. Her eyes glowed brightest now, not with fear but clarity. "They don't want us alive," she said, not to him, not to them, but to the air itself. Her voice was calm, far too calm for a child. "They want what wakes inside us." The hunters tensed. Not one denied it. The man didn't step back. "Then you're not going with them." The lead hunter stared at him, unreadable beneath the hood. The hum in the air kept building, as though the world itself was holding its breath. A final warning left the hunter's lips low and cold. Protecting them mean becoming part of what hunts them. The man didn't blink. "Then let it come." Behind him, the glow in the children's eyes brightened, and something in the night finally answered back.